welcome to another edition of Broken Deck Mondays on Team PI Pokemon, and today what we're going to do is we're going to be featuring a deck that reached 4th and 2nd place at a League Cup all the way in the Netherlands. You might be thinking, why on earth are we featuring a deck that didn't even win? But this is no ordinary deck. This was one that was created by the mindset of Sander Wojcik. Thank you very much for creating this monstrosity, absolute monstrosity, and also for sharing your deck list online as well. Really appreciate it. It gives us a lot to think about in terms of what can actually be accomplished with a little bit of careful thought and an eye for combos that could really make your opponent absolutely writhing. The reason why I'm featuring this right now is, even though this came out a little while back, around about maybe beginning of March, 5th of March, this was actually a deck that I did see at the Manchester League Cup, and I can tell you for sure that nobody wanted to play that person. It was just like, you would just be very, very thankful. As soon as this deck was in the room, you thought, oh my goodness, I do not want to face that, because that is just a complete auto loss. So what is the strategy behind this deck? Well, let me just tell you. So basically what it is a Sableye Hydreigon Raichu deck. It brings about a situation where your opponent cannot interact with the game whatsoever. It has a late game paralysis loop inside it as well. And it also restricts your opponent from playing supporters to try and break that lock. Now, unfortunately, Garbotoxin Garbodor is in the format at the moment, so we can't really say that this is the best deck in the format. Garbotoxin will actually overcome this deck. It will create a situation where they cannot win at all whatsoever, because this deck is hugely reliant on abilities to draw, to set the paralysis, and also to reset the paralysis as well. Okay, so literally every single other game against a deck without Garbodor is won, and the only losses that Sander reports are losses against decks with Garbodor. You might actually find that if you're playing against this deck, you know, it's not an exciting deck. There are lots and lots of intricacies within the piloting of this deck, but once you get used to it, you really don't have to worry about it too much. There's a lot of cards in here that you know, aren't necessarily very popular, so I'm going to go through those cards. The first thing that you can notice is that it actually features Altar of the Moon. I can't think of any other deck at this moment in time that actually features that. Altar of the Moon was featured initially in Espeon Garbodor, just to preserve the energies, and also maybe, you know, just to counter opponent stadiums as well, in particular Potown. Was that time? This was around about 12 months ago. Just to come back in. So the retreat cost of each Pokemon, both yours and your opponents, that have any Psychic or Darkness energy attached to it is double colorless less. Okay, so the idea behind featuring 2 Altar of the Moon was actually to counter and deal with Parallel City, and you can actually recover Altar of the Moon using any one of your 3 Lusamines. Lusamine is put 2 in any combination of supporter and stadium cards from your discard pile into your hand. Now, you need to be able to counter Parallel City, because there are at least 3 Pokemon that you need to have on your bench in order to set up the lock. So you really do need to get rid of any Parallel Cities that are present. So there's another card in there that Misty fans will be particularly keen to see, and it's Misty's Determination. Discard a card from your hand. If you do, look at the top 8 cards of your deck and put one of them into your hand. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Now, this is actually a really cool card. It does get used every so often. Players do sort of dip into maybe just trying to see whether they can get that extra little bit of dig. Was quite popular in Japan, I have to say. When it has come out, it's probably a little bit more popular in Japan than in Western decks, I have to say. So the idea behind this one is that what you want to do is you want to try and ditch any not so useful cards from your hand, so the actual discard is just as good. Otherwise, what happens is you just get stuck with dead cards late game, particularly when you want to try and draw into useful cards for your turn with Abyssal Hand. So Abyssal Hand, just to remind you, once during your turn, you may draw cards until you have 5 cards in your hand. You got 2/2 line over here just to make sure that the actual Octillery line can come out. However, you do play 2 Gladion as well in this deck to try and recover any pieces that are missing and lost in your prizes. So we're going to now move on to the Hydreigon. The Hydreigon has an ability, Weed Out. Once during your turn, before your attack, you may choose 3 of your benched Pokemon. You discard the other benched Pokemon that you have. So the idea is that you set up as your 4th Pokemon a Raichu. And then what you do is you discard the Raichu. So the Pikachu and Raichu go back into your deck. You then draw into them with Abyssal Hand and bench the Pikachu. And then next turn you've got the Raichu in your hand. You can Evo Shock again and then weed them out, put them in the discard pile, and the loop continues. And that loop is possible because you can play Brock's Grit, which is shuffle 6 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. So what you have to do is you have to evolve to Evo Shock, then you have to weed out the Raichu, then you have to play the Brock's Grit, get them back into your deck, and then you have to Abyssal Hand, and you're ready next turn to Evo the Raichu, weed out, Brock's Grit, Abyssal Hand. And in order to recycle the Brock's Grit, what you can do is you can play Lusamine, and you have to play Lusamine for a Lusamine, and you have to play the second card, which is Brock's Grit. So every other turn that you have, you are able to Evo Shock, and I think you realise what the strategy ends up being. Okay, so quite a few players just may look at this deck and thinking, you know, not quite sure what that combo is, but that is the essential combo. So you might be thinking, why don't I just run Candy for Hydreigon? But the problem is you can't afford to not have Hydreigon setting up very quickly. There is really an inherent inconsistency that comes about when you use candies. So it's just better just to have like a firm and consistent setting up of Hydreigon using Xylus. That just evolved straight into Hydreigon. So you might be thinking, you know, maybe I should change this deck and everything like that. The answer is the testing has been done behind it. Sandra has suggested that you do not do that at all. You can also have Devolution Spray. Now, Devolution Spray was featured in Heatmore Raichu, his earlier creation. Devolve one of your evolved Pokemon and put the highest stage evolution card on it in your hand. Having that is really, really good because you then have effectively a free turn, and that free turn then allows you to play Limitation. And once you play Limitation, then you know you've got the capacity to just you know, move on and keep setting up your Hydreigons. So that's really something that you can just bear in mind. The focus really seems to be on putting the Sableye active and getting the Raichu, and then once you have that little loop, you should have enough resources to then set up the Hydreigon and then start the trap. Okay. But playing Limitation, again, you know, you play a Limitation, you play Paralysis, they're stuck in Paralysis, they really cannot get out of it. I don't think any deck really out there at this moment in time plays Warp Energy to break out of it. Now, a Skateboard is in existence, but really what they would have to do is they would have to play more than one Escape Board as well, because you just do exactly the same thing on your next turn. Okay, so what is also useful is that Sableye does protect your benched Xylus. Once you're starting to evolve it up, it protects Pikachu, it protects Octillery, because none of them can be Guzma'd early game. And that's a real hidden strength of this deck. If you start to lose resources, it's not that devastating, because there is, just simply speaking, incredible amounts of recovery within this deck. So please don't underestimate the value of Limitation. You've also got, you know, certain situations that do come up where you might actually think, oh, I'm just going to fall behind on prizes on this one. You don't need to worry about that. You can just keep sacrificing Sableyes, keep sacrificing, you know, unnecessary Pokemon as prizes, because even if you just go down to one prize, you will actually still have the capacity, if everything is set up, to just completely turn the deck around and turn the game around and win completely. Okay. Also, you've got to bear in mind that what you could do is, if you start falling behind on prizes, you also have Counter Capture as well, so you can bring up a Pokemon that are just stuck on the opponent's bench, play Limitation, and again they can't get out of it. So even if they have like 3 or 4 Guzma in their hand, it's just a useless card completely. They have no control over the situation. So again, that gives you another turn closer to setting the trap completely. Now, there is quite a significant amount of setting up that needs to be done, so the inclusion of just one Bridget might surprise quite a few, but you really do have an incredible amount of basics within this deck. I think you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, around about 15 basics in this one. So very, very unlikely to naturally get very few basics in your starting hand if around about a quarter of your deck is basics anyway. So there's no real need to rely on a Bridget. Just it's there to complete the setup, kind of like between the beginning of the game and the mid game. Okay. The idea behind this deck is probably most suited towards playing at cups. If you had a special event, perhaps it might not be ideal because there's lots and lots of Garbodor that are around. Or if you have particularly big cups, or that Garbodor is going to be quite heavily played, then perhaps it's not worth it, because effectively, if your opponent has Garbotoxin and has access to Garbodor in play, you just might as well scoop. There is literally maybe just under 5%, 95 out of 100 games you would just lose completely with Garbotoxin Garbodor because they just prize those. But you might as well just have an early lunch and pick up. Okay, a couple of other thoughts behind this, questions that you might have. You might think, well, perhaps I want to try and actually overcome Garbotoxin Garbodor. Maybe what I could do is I could actually just play a Field Blower or two. The problem is that the Garbotoxin Garbodor decks will tend to also run multiple tools, so you can't really secure it. They'll also have they'll also have Puzzle of Time as well, so they can actually recycle their Guzmas. Perhaps there's just too many ways in which they can actually break the lock, so to speak. So what they will do is they will completely lock down, and then what they'll do, they can't obviously play the Guzma as soon as you play a limitation. A lot of people actually do forget about that, but they can just recycle their cards, and it just isn't really worth it at all. So just again, what you have to do with the late game loop, right? You just have to discard the Raichus with Hydreigon, and then with trading up for Brock's Grit and Abyssal Hand, just draw into it, and literally you will have an infinite loop. The problem with Ptcgo is that it is actually limited to half an hour of play, so we'll give it a go. We'll try and see whether we can have a few games, but the problem is that Ptcgo takes a long time because of all of the little tiny cartoony type animations that you have. Your opponent also, if you're conducting limitation attacks, your opponent will also not be able to Cynthia or End back into their deck, so inevitably they will just completely deck out. Brock's Grit and Lucamine is an infinite combo, so there is no real need to rely on Rescue Stretcher completely, unless you just can't get the Brock's Grit. You would then use Gladion to try and get the Brock's Grit out of your prizes. Okay, you got to try and draw your deck every 2 turns with Octillery. Constantly attack with Sableye and establish that infinite loop. You may think, well, why can't we operate it with Zorak? But the problem is that with Zorak, what will actually happen is you'll often find that you just clump up your hand, and you can't then really pull off that perfect draw as well. So some people have started to think about putting Zorak in for a little bit of mid-game draw. But it's, even though you won't necessarily have to depend on having a hand size that's actually lower than 5. It just doesn't really work as well. So there you go. Now, if you had a best of 1 situation at a cup, perhaps if you play fast enough, you should be able to win because of no supporters. But you just have to try it out. 50 minutes really is good enough to play one game, because what happens is your opponent cannot play the end to refill their deck, and naturally drawing one card per turn, even if they take 30 to 40 seconds per turn, they will inevitably go through one entire game. So when you and what I also need to do, this is actually one of those unique decks where you actually have to scroll up and down because there are just so many different cards. So just to reiterate, there are 5 energy cards, 5 darkness energy cards in here, and you use those just to attack with limitation. Right at the very beginning, your ideal start with if you do have that Bridget in hand, is probably a Remoraid, a situational second card, and a Dino, but it's absolutely essential that you set up the Hydreigon as fast as you possibly can with this deck while limiting your opponent's setup with limitation. A couple of other random thoughts I can only think now. If you if you actually have the mirror match, what actually happens is you just infinitely paralyze loop each other, and you find that neither opponent actually deck each other out. It could be described as the perfect stalemate, but you know, at some point, what you would have to do is you just have to, you know, concede that your opponent is just as brave as you. It is pretty crazy. It's a very, very unique deck. It has the ability to trap a huge amount of Pokemon in the active. For example, Dawnwing's Necrozma, if they did happen to have it. I forgot to mention the Dragonite. Pull up when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench. You may put 2 basic Pokemon, except for Dragonite EX, from your discard pile into your hand. And a lot of people may remember the use of Dragonite EX to bring up Pokemon from Garbotoxin EX, you know, the fairy one that always relied on large benches. But it is any 2 basic Pokemon. You can actually have that pulling out Pokemon from your own discard, namely Pikachu's. You can also have Sableye coming out as well. So that's the reason why Dragonite is in there. The great thing about this deck over decks that look like this but include Heatmore is that it just completely shuts down your opponent's ability to play supporters, whereas Heatmore doesn't actually prevent that. Heatmore was really, really good until the moment where the 4 Guzma, 4 Puzzle Zorak decks came out, and that just completely shut down Heatmore Raichu down. And that was like post European International Championships. You might think, well, perhaps your opponent could actually deck you out using Team Rocket's handiwork if you're so low in deck number. But again, Team Rocket's handiwork, it is a supporter. You wouldn't be able to play the Team Rocket's handiwork as well. So, all right, okay. So pretty much that's a big description, very, very intricate description of what's actually going on, but because there's just so many little tiny switches that need to be flicked before you can actually go with this deck, I felt it was really, really important to just go over every single thing that I could certainly think of that needs to be covered. What we're now going to do is we're gonna unleash it onto the Ptcgo ladder. So don't go away. We will be back right in a few seconds. Team Rewind. Okay, so let's. It's probably going to be a relatively long game. I just hope he hasn't played. He has got Greninja. Dino Star is okay. Okay, he's got a Rampardos. It's a nice little fossil deck. Okay. Let's stick that there. Stick the Skylar and the counter catcher. He knows what's up. He knows what's up. He knows what's up. I'm gonna save the end. Oh boy, wow. So does that have the capacity to do 120 with a double colourless? He does, doesn't he? If he's got a double colourless. Oh gosh. Well, at least it's only just one Dino. Right. Okay. Right, we need reinforcements, kids. Okay. Oh, this is really tricky because I really need to draw into a support. I need to get the Dino back in hand. Yeah, I've heard of this fossil deck. It's literally got everything. You've got Ammonites, Amistars as well. I think Amistar is a really, really good card as well. Amistar, I think Amistar Break. Just have to see. Problem is, I don't even know what these cards do. Apart from Aerodactyl, that's 120. Jet Draft. Got no problem with the energies because everything's going to be knocked out anyway. Oh my word, look at that. Wow. That is pretty nifty. Okay. Oh wow, that's brilliant. Okay, I could do with that Gladion. Hydreigon is there, the rescue stretcher is there. Another Sableye is there. It's not letting me see my discard pile. Okay. I'll go with the Sableye. Because it's just going to be useful. Organization. I do also have another Gladion as well. Oh god. Oh, Wobbuffet. Okay, playable card, please. Bit of a waste, but I need the extra draw. Brilliant. Dino, definitely. I do want to have the Pikachu, but I might need the Lele as well, so let's try this. I've only got one Hydreigon in the deck, so I have to be very careful. It's fine. It's just a little problem because I do not have the Pikachu back on the deck. Okay, oh, I've got Count Catcher as well. Let's counter Catcher something. Free retreat. Free retreat. To retreat. There we go. to Cynthia. And I get the Hydreigon. Thank goodness for that. Okay, Hydreigon is in play now. And I think what I do is I weed out the Sableye and the Raichu, keeping the other three. Put a Ptcgo down and hope that he can't retreat. Now what he could do is he could add a double colourless. Oh, that's brilliant. Okay. So, first things first, let's paralyze him. I'm thinking weed out and then Brock's Grit. But is it a bit too soon for that? Yes, please. I think Misty's determination. Potentially Ultra Ball because I might draw into two not very useful cards here. Right. Yeah. So I keep the Raichu in hand. And now I weed out the Raichu, put it back in the deck, and then next time when I'm ready to Brock's Grit. And what will I Brock's Grit? I'll Brock's Grit the 2-2 line. I've got a third Pikachu as well, so let's pop that there. And I'm hoping that I've established the lock. Let's Brock's Grit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that will do. Is this an attachable card? Okay, this is working out. Delusion Spray that. Attach that to Hydreigon, and then Limitation. Next turn, two Pikachus on the bench. 3 Bridgets. Those two, please. Evolve that. Paralyze. Abyssal Hand. And I'm pretty much set actually for 2 turns at least. So limitation, yeah. So as soon as you get the second Raichu, that's when you weed those out. Second Raichu, down there. Yeah, paralyzed. Weed out. 1, 2, 3. Loosening. Box Grit. Misty's determination, please. I'd like to get rid of the two. Limitation again. Okay, put the Pikachu down. Paralyzing. Okay, I can afford to weed out the other Raichu, but let's just do this first. Okay, rescue Raichu with that. Into my hand. Good tree, please. And rotation. Then I do the Brock's Grip, and I do the Least Meat, and I've got 8 cards in my deck, so I should be able to get through quite a few. Okay, it's paralyzing again. Yes. Okay. Oh, weed out first. That one, and then that one. Nope, I keep clicking the ones that I want to get rid of. Okay, now I grip them back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Special hand. Okay, limitation. I would like to get Misty's Determination in here, but I've got these 2 Sycamores. I'm okay. The problem is that I've got cards that I can't get rid of from my hand. Right, that's there. And loosening. Okay, I don't have paralysis next turn. How many Lucamines do I have in my deck? In my discard pile I've got... Okay, so I'm going to play a Lucamine for a Lucamine and Misty's Determination. Which is not ideal. And the problem is that I would probably get knocked out next time. So I think retreat for the Raichu. I'm starting to think that Psychic's Third Eye might actually be really good in here if it was against the basics only deck. Psychic's Third Eye, you can look at your opponent's hand and discard what you want and draw as many cards as you've discarded. I'm hoping that he's going to feel low. Okay, right. Of course, psychic ability is still monk. Yeah, there lies a problem. I'll have to loop Lucamine and Misty's determination now. In the absence of all of these abilities that I need. Okay, that actually does help me. I think maybe my opponent is trying to deck me out, but I do have the Brock's grip. And as soon as he retreats, my abilities are back on. Two energies. Just going to pass. Now, the problem is that if he attacks with Aerodactyl, he's opening himself up to abilities. I think what he's going to do is going to try and get the Pikachu. As soon as he knocks out the Pikachu, I'm benching two Pikachus with a Weed out. He might just get the Octillery. Oh, he can get the Sableye. How interesting. I'm not quite sure why he did that, but okay. Misty's determination. And I may as well limit him. Okay, this is going to be quite slow. And Lucy. Same thing. I literally need to wrap this up in 9 minutes. Misty's determination. to get something from my deck. I'm going to bench it on the Hydreigon. No, I'm not going to bench it on the Hydreigon. I'm going to play Limitation. Oh, that helps. That actually really helps. That and okay. How many have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And now play the box. 2, 3, 4, 5. Where did Basic Energy go? Basic Energy didn't go back in, did it? Because I put the Ultra Balloon out before, but I needed to anyway. Okay. Just another card. And we're just going forever and ever and ever. Is there any way out? I can't actually see a way out of this. Okay. How? There's no way out of this. He's stuck with Bobafay active. He's probably going to end at some point. I think he's just going to run out of time. And we're just stuck. I think what I'm going to have to do is attack with Hydreigon. Unfortunately, I have to put all of the junk back as well. 3, 4, 5. You know what? I need to attack him as well. Oh, I can actually attack him. One more buffet. Okay. I'm done with this. I have to break the lock. Never really thought I would actually be taking prizes with this deck. I got the Lucario. Lucario and Misty's determination, I guess. Time is running out. Okay, I think we are good to go now. Now, I don't think he believes that I can actually retreat, but I've got Lucario unless he plays an N. If he plays an N, that's smart play. Oh gosh, this darn other thing will just not go away. And he doesn't have any more double colourless now. Okay, Lucario for Lucario and Ultra Moon. Destruction. Oh, brilliant. I've got 2 loose spins back. Okay. And now I have to retreat. Keep 3 Pikachu's down. And we're just back in the loop now. Now I can actually empty my hand. Misty's Determination, a very, very strong card in this deck. The irony is that I'm actually having prizes. What have I done? What have I done? What have I done? Just misclick there. I have actually just misclicked majorly there. Oh dear. Right, hang on a second. It's too. Oh! Right, okay, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. That's fine. Stick a 3 more there. Rotation. Okay. Keep that, and keep that. Right, nice and that. No, listen, it's getting late. I'm just losing track of everything now. Pikachu and Element. And Limits. Raichu. Yes. We don't. That. That's good. Everything back. 3, 4, 5, 6. Put Raichu. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lovely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's get that in there. 2 Raichu. 2 Raichu. It's just getting too late. I've only got 10 seconds left anyway. So put that there. Rotation. And unfortunately, Ptcgo has timed me out, but I think I would have had this. So there you go. I can't really showcase the deck, but I hope that we went into loops. I've just made a bit of a mistake right at the end, but I don't think it would have made a big difference. I still had the capability of forming that infinite loop. Thank you so much for watching. Very, very tricky deck to try and get that combo right at the end. You can't really practice it on Ptcgo, but in a real life match, it would be a fantastic, fantastic choice. You just have to watch out for Greninja, watch out for Garbotoxin Garbodor, and Wobbuffet, which is what we just found out. Thanks for watching. Like the video, like the channel, please. See us on twitch.tv/Team MCR Pokémon as well. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.